This story is about a group of arrogant classmates who once bullied a quiet, humble student, labeling him as a loser. After 5 years, they arrange a reunion only to humiliate him again. But what they don't know is that this loser has transformed into a powerful, self-made millionaire, now worth $100 million. The tables are about to turn, and what begins as mockery becomes the ultimate shock of their lives. Before starting the story, make sure to subscribe the channel so that you don't miss any update in future. The night was filled with the sound of laughter, chatter, and clinking glasses as a group of former classmates gathered in a luxurious banquet hall. It had been 5 years since they graduated high school, and though most of them had taken different paths in life, tonight they came together for a reunion. But beneath the bright lights and polished smiles, there was a plan. A plan to humiliate the one person they had all labeled as the class loser. His name was Ethan. Back in school, he had been quiet, reserved, always sitting in the corner with his worn-out books and second-hand clothes. He wasn't part of the football team, he wasn't good at parties, and he definitely didn't have the charm or confidence that made others popular. For years, his classmates mocked him, calling him names, ignoring his presence, and using him as the punchline to their cruel jokes. And now, 5 years later, they decided to invite him again, not out of kindness, not out of nostalgia, but to see if he had remained the same awkward boy they once ridiculed. He'll probably show up in the same cheap shoes. One of them laughed while sipping from a glass of water. Or maybe still carrying that old backpack, another added, smirking. "I can't wait to see his face when he realizes we're still ahead of him," said Jason, the loudest and most arrogant of them all. Jason had been the self-proclaimed leader of the class, the one who thrived on humiliating Ethan the most. He had orchestrated cruel pranks, spread rumors, and made Ethan's school life a living nightmare. And tonight, Jason was eager to do it all over again. But what none of them knew was that the Ethan they remembered no longer existed. The hall doors opened slowly, and the noise in the room dimmed. Everyone turned to look, expecting to see the same timid figure from their memories. Instead, their eyes widened in disbelief. Ethan walked in. Not the Ethan they remembered, but a man transformed. His tailored suit was sharp and elegant, perfectly fitted to his athletic frame. His watch glistened under the lights, subtle but unmistakably expensive. His walk wasn't timid anymore. It was calm, confident, and commanding. For a moment, the room fell silent. Then whispers began to spread. "Is that really him? No way, that can't be Ethan. He looks different." Jason forced a laugh, trying to break the tension. "Well, look who decided to show up." The class ghost finally came back from the dead. He extended his arms theatrically, pretending to welcome Ethan, but his eyes burned with jealousy. Ethan simply smiled. A small, knowing smile that revealed nothing but carried an unshakable power. He didn't respond to Jason's mockery. He didn't need to. As Ethan walked further into the hall, people moved aside instinctively, almost as if they could feel something had shifted. He wasn't the loser anymore. He wasn't the outsider. He was something else entirely, someone untouchable. "Come on, Ethan, don't be shy," Jason called out again, trying to regain control. "Join us. Tell us about your thrilling life." Still working at that little shop downtown. Ethan's eyes flickered, just for a moment, but he remained silent. He let Jason laugh, let the others smirk. And then, with the calmness of a man who no longer owed anyone an explanation, he spoke. "I've been busy." His voice was deep, confident, steady. Jason chuckled. "Busy? What? Stacking shelves? Washing dishes? Come on, don't be shy, tell us. We could use a laugh." But just as Jason was about to add another insult, one of the classmates interrupted. "Wait a second, isn't that Ethan Carter? The CEO of Carter Enterprises?" The room froze. Heads turned sharply toward Ethan. Some gasped, some covered their mouths, and others simply stared in disbelief. Jason frowned. "CEO? What nonsense are you talking about?" But before anyone could answer, another voice chimed in. "No, she's right. I read about him in Forbes last month. Ethan Carter, the entrepreneur who turned a startup into a $100 million empire. That's him." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The air grew heavy. Jason's smirk faltered for the first time. Everyone's eyes now locked on Ethan, searching for confirmation. But Ethan didn't brag, didn't announce his wealth, didn't gloat. He simply smiled again and said, "Yes, that's me." Silence. For the first time in years, the so-called class loser had the entire room at his mercy. The tables had turned, and the same people who once mocked him now stood in awe, trembling with disbelief. Jason's face turned red, his arrogance crumbling as he stumbled for words. "Why, you're kidding. This is some kind of joke, right? You can't be serious." But Ethan's calm composure said everything. He didn't need to prove himself. His presence was proof enough. The classmates who had laughed at him in school now looked at him with admiration, envy, and shame all mixed together. Some whispered apologies under their breath, others avoided eye contact altogether. But the weight of their guilt hung heavy in the room. Jason, however, wasn't ready to give up. His pride wouldn't let him. "So, what if you made some money? At the end of the day, you're still the same loser we all remember. Money doesn't change who you are." Ethan turned to face him, his eyes steady, piercing. "You're right. Money doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you've always been. And tonight, it revealed all of you." The words cut through the silence like a blade. The room grew colder, heavier. Jason's arrogance cracked completely, and for the first time, he had no comeback. Ethan's gaze shifted across the room, landing on each face, the faces that once laughed at him, dismissed him, broke him down. Now, those same faces couldn't even meet his eyes. And in that silence, the reality sank in. The loser they once mocked was no longer a victim. He was the man they could never become. The air inside the banquet hall had grown heavy, almost suffocating. A few minutes ago, the room had been alive with arrogance and laughter, filled with the sound of mocking voices waiting to feast on an old memory. But now, after Ethan's quiet revelation, silence ruled. Every pair of eyes was fixed on him, searching for answers, but none of them dared to voice what they were truly feeling: regret. Jason, however, was different. Regret was a word his pride did not allow. His fists clenched at his sides as his mind raced. For years, he had been the untouchable one, the leader, the loudest voice in every room. Yet in a matter of moments, Ethan had stolen it all, not through insults, not through tricks, but through a presence that no one could deny. Jason's laughter returned, but it was thinner now, brittle and cracking under pressure. "So what? You've got money now? That doesn't erase the fact that back then, you were nothing. Do you hear me, Ethan? Nothing." His voice echoed, louder than before, desperate to remind everyone of the story he wanted them to believe. But even as he shouted, the room wasn't with him anymore. Some classmates frowned at Jason's bitterness, others shook their heads subtly. For the first time, people weren't laughing at Ethan. They were silently judging Jason. Ethan's calm expression didn't change. He stepped closer, his polished shoes clicking softly against the marble floor, each step deliberate. His eyes never left Jason's. "You're right again," Ethan said smoothly, his tone steady as steel. "Back then, I was nothing. But while you were busy mocking me, I was busy building something you'll never understand. You thought my silence meant weakness, but it meant focus. And focus is the reason I stand here today, and you're standing there, still clinging to the past." Gasps escaped from a few mouths, and the whispers began again. Jason's face turned red, his arrogance twisting into rage. One of the classmates, Sophia, who had once joined Jason in teasing Ethan but had grown quieter over the years, spoke softly, almost to herself. "He's right." Her words, though quiet, carried weight. Others nodded reluctantly, their guilt finally surfacing. Jason whipped his head toward her. "What did you say?" Sophia straightened her shoulders, her voice stronger now. "I said he's right. We all laughed at him, Jason. We all treated him like he didn't matter. And look at him now. He earned everything while we wasted our time mocking someone who is smarter, stronger than we ever realized." The hall buzzed louder with murmurs. Ethan remained silent, his expression unchanged. He didn't need to add to her words, the truth was already unraveling. Jason, however, wouldn't let go. Don't you dare take his side, he barked at Sophia, his pride burning hotter with every passing second. He's not better than us. He just got lucky. That's all. Some stupid luck. Ethan tilted his head slightly, finally letting a hint of sharpness into his voice. Luck. He let the word linger in the air. Luck doesn't wake you up at 4 a.m. every day. Luck doesn't work through sleepless nights, failures, and setbacks. Luck doesn't build empires. Luck is what people like you hide behind when you can't explain why someone you called a loser has surpassed you. Jason froze. The words dug deep, pulling away the armor he had always worn. Around the room, heads nodded in agreement, some quietly clapping under their breath. The tension grew thick again. Jason's voice trembled, his arrogance slipping into desperation. So, what are you saying, Ethan? That you're better than us now? That you're untouchable? Ethan didn't flinch. I don't need to be better than you. I don't need to be untouchable. All I needed was to rise above the limits you tried to place on me. You defined me as nothing. Tonight, you're realizing how wrong you were. A hush fell again. Some of the classmates lowered their eyes, their shame too heavy to bear. A few even approached Ethan timidly, as if to distance themselves from Jason's bitterness. Ethan, one of them whispered, I'm sorry for the things I said back then. Another added quickly, me too. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just kids. Their apologies filled the room one after another. Voices overlapping, guilt spilling out, each of them suddenly desperate to erase the cruelty of the past. But Ethan remained steady. He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He listened, his face unreadable, and then said softly, I don't need your apologies. I moved on years ago. The only person still stuck in the past is Jason. Jason's face twisted, his fury boiling over. He slammed his glass down on the nearest table, shattering it into pieces. The sound echoed like a gunshot, making several classmates jump. You think you're a king now? Jason roared, his voice raw with envy. You think money makes you powerful? Look around, Ethan. They're still my friends, not yours. They'll never truly respect you. You're still the outcast, no matter how much money you have. But this time, nobody cheered him on. Nobody laughed. Instead, all eyes turned away from Jason, their expressions filled with disappointment and disgust. And then, as if fate itself wanted to seal the moment, one of the classmates pulled out their phone, scrolling quickly before holding the screen up. Jason, you're wrong. Look, he's on the cover of Business Weekly. Ethan Carter, the visionary behind the $100 million empire. Respect? He's got more than you'll ever dream of. The screen lit up with Ethan's image, his success undeniable. The whispers became louder, admiration spreading through the room. Jason's hands shook. His pride was collapsing, brick by brick, under the weight of truth. And Ethan, standing tall and unshaken, delivered the final blow, not with anger, but with calm authority. Respect isn't demanded. It's earned. And the difference between us, Jason, is that while you chased approval from others, I chased my purpose. That's why tonight, you're fighting for attention, and I don't need to. The room erupted, not in laughter, but in quiet applause. Not the mockery Ethan once endured, but genuine admiration, awe, and respect. Jason's shoulders slumped, his arrogance shattered beyond repair. The classmates who once stood beside him no longer saw him as a leader. The power he once held had slipped through his fingers completely. And as Ethan stood there, dignified and unshaken, the truth was undeniable. The tables had turned forever. The silence that followed was heavier than anything the room had ever experienced. Jason, once the loudest voice in every hallway, stood frozen in humiliation, his arrogance stripped bare in front of the very people he thought he controlled. The man who had ruled with mockery and cruelty was no longer feared. Instead, he looked small, like a shadow of his former self. Ethan, however, stood tall, his composure unshaken. He hadn't raised his voice once. He hadn't begged for validation. He had simply shown up, and that alone was enough to turn the world upside down. Jason's pride, though shattered, still clawed at him like a cornered animal refusing to die. His breathing was heavy, his fists trembling as he stepped closer to Ethan. "You think this is over?" Jason spat, his voice hoarse with desperation. "You think you can just walk in here, flaunt your success, and make us all feel like garbage? You're still the same nobody I knew. Money doesn't change that." Ethan didn't flinch. He met Jason's fury with calm eyes, a gaze so steady it felt like it pierced right through the arrogance. "Jason," he said softly, almost like a teacher speaking to a stubborn child, "I didn't come here to make you feel like garbage. I came here because you invited me. I didn't need to prove anything tonight. The truth is, I never did. But you—" Ethan leaned in slightly, his voice lowering so only Jason and those closest could hear. "You needed this. You needed to be reminded that cruelty has consequences, that arrogance has a price. And tonight you're paying it." Jason's mouth opened, but no words came. For the first time, he had no comeback, no insult, no laughter to hide behind. His voice betrayed him, trembling with anger and fear. The classmates around them shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered again, but this time, not about Ethan. They whispered about Jason, about his downfall, about how pathetic his desperation looked. The same people who once cheered for him now pitied him. One of the classmates, a man named Daniel who had stayed quiet most of the night, finally spoke. "You know, Jason, maybe it's time you stopped pretending. You spent all these years tearing people down, but what did it get you? Look around. Nobody's laughing anymore." The sting of those words hit Jason harder than anything Ethan had said. He glanced around and realized Daniel was right. The faces that once looked at him with loyalty and amusement now looked at him with shame, even disgust. Jason stumbled back a step, his confidence unraveling completely. No, you don't understand," he muttered, almost pleading. "I was the leader. Everyone followed me. I made this group what it was. Without me, without you." Ethan interrupted calmly. "Maybe some of us could have actually enjoyed our youth without being afraid of humiliation." His voice was sharp now, every word deliberate. "Without you, I might have believed sooner that I was worth something. And maybe, just maybe, some of them wouldn't be standing here tonight with regret in their eyes." The words pierced the room like lightning. Several classmates lowered their heads, ashamed of the truth Ethan had spoken. They remembered the cruel laughter, the whispered insults, the pranks that went too far. They remembered how they had stood by Jason, afraid of being his next target. And now, in this banquet hall, the reality of their complicity was undeniable. Jason's knees buckled slightly. For the first time, his voice cracked with something that sounded less like anger and more like desperation. "So what now? You want me to beg? You want me to admit that you've won?" Ethan shook his head slowly. "I don't want you to beg. And this was never about winning. I don't need revenge, Jason. I don't need you to admit anything. Because the truth is already written. It's written in the way you look at me now. It's written in the silence of this room. It's written in the life I've built while you wasted yours trying to hold on to power that was never real." Jason's eyes glistened, though he tried to hide it. His pride wouldn't let him cry, not here, not in front of them. But the crack in his voice betrayed him. "You'll never understand what it's like to be me." Ethan studied him quietly for a long moment, then replied, "No. And I never want to." The simplicity of those words cut deeper than any insult ever could. Jason staggered back, defeated, his entire identity crumbling in front of the very people who once fueled it. Around them, the classmates began to shift. Some approached Ethan, offering genuine respect now. Not the shallow admiration of envy, but something real, something earned. "Ethan," one said quietly, "I don't know how you did it, but you've given us all something to think about tonight." Another added, "You showed us that dignity means more than popularity ever did." Ethan nodded politely, acknowledging them but not basking in it. He had no desire to humiliate anyone further. He wasn't here for revenge. He was here to live, to move forward, to show, without saying it, that the boy they once mocked had become a man they could never break. Jason, meanwhile, sank into a chair at the edge of the room, his body trembling with silent defeat. No one followed him. No one tried to comfort him. For the first time, he was alone, the very fate he had once condemned Ethan to. Ethan glanced at him one last time, not with anger, but with something Jason couldn't bear: pity. Then he turned back to the group, his voice calm and steady. "You all called me a loser once. But the truth is, I should thank you. Every insult, every laugh, every cruel word, it all pushed me to become the man I am today. You tried to break me, but you only sharpened me. And tonight, I hope you remember this. The way you treat people when they have nothing says more about you than it ever will about them." The room went silent again. But this time, it wasn't awkward. It was powerful. Ethan's words hung in the air like a lesson none of them would ever forget. And with that, he turned and began to walk toward the exit. Each step echoed in the hall, heavy with finality, until the doors opened once more. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Because in that moment, everyone knew the truth. The loser had become the legend, and the arrogant had been reduced to silence.